Good morning, everyone. I now call the first hearing of the task force on the attempted assassination of Donald J. Trump to order. I now recognize myself for my opening statement. On July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania, 20-year-old gunman Thomas Crooks came within inches of assassinating the former president and current Republican presidential nominee, Donald Trump. I will also say that in this room today, outside of local law enforcement, there's only one other person that was on the grounds that day, with my wife, with 3 of my grandchildren, and 1 of my sons. I can't tell you, when I talk to local law enforcement, how much I appreciate what you all did that day. And today is your day to come forward with your testimony. Now, I, along with several members of my family, we were actually present at the rally in Butler when this shooting occurred. It's my hometown. I've lived in this community for more than 60 years. I grew up going to the Butler Farm Show because we, at one time or another, did farming, and we would take our animals there every time we had the farm show, and also played American Legion baseball at the fields beside the farm show. So this tragedy remains incredibly personal to me and to the entire community. This tragedy, the very real threat to democracy of our nation, escaped that day. I think we realized it was entirely preventable. But because of failures by the Secret Service, the shooting was not prevented. Just last week, Acting Director Rowe said his own agency showed complacency. The day of the assassination attempt, Crooks scouted and identified weaknesses in the Secret Service's security plan using both a drone and a rangefinder. Had security vulnerabilities not existed, it is entirely plausible he might not even have attempted the shooting and would have returned home. Unfortunately, we will never know for sure. What we do know is that the documents and testimony point to several fundamental failures on July 13th, in the days leading up to the rally. It was not a single mistake that allowed Crooks to outmaneuver one of our country's most elite group of security professionals. There were security failures on multiple fronts. To date, our investigation has identified 3 key factors. First, Secret Service planning, or perhaps more accurately, their failure to adequately plan created confusion among the agency's law enforcement partners. The Secret Service was not assertive on key decisions, like the placement of some of the units and delegating responsibilities. Secondly, the Secret Service did not close down public access or manage access to the grounds next to the rally site that were less than 150 yards from the stage where former President Trump spoke. Third, the security communications and command structure were not cohesive and did not allow for rapid decision-making. Information in a moment of crisis went through radio communications, text messages, and phone calls way too slowly. Second-hand reports were passed in a manner resembling the old children's game telephone. Altogether, these other failures led to a dysfunctional security situation that took the life of Mr. Comprador, injured 2 others, and nearly claimed former president's life. I will add to this what's not in my script. There was another life that day that was lost. The Crooks family lost their son. So whatever role he played that day, we have to remember that at the end of the day, I believe this all could have been prevented. Now, in the hours leading up to the assassination attempt, Crooks had a prolonged and unimpeded ability to scout the target and identify the most advantageous shooting positions. Even as Crooks was flagged multiple times for suspicious behavior, confusion surrounded law enforcement's responsibility to find and question him. Crooks operated in an unsecured area, as situational information about him was both delayed and limited. Former President Trump took the stage even as local law enforcement were escalating efforts to find a suspicious person. Evidence shows that in crucial moments after local police over radio reported that Crooks had a long gun on the roof, and in a period of less than 30 seconds before shots were fired, the Secret Service could not process the information fast enough to pull the former president from the stage. I am going to do something here, but I think, Lucas and Sarah, that we believe the same thing. All we had to know, if we knew there was a suspicious person out there, and this, I think once you listen to this today, you're going to find out, why in the world would you let former President Trump go out onto that platform if you weren't sure it was secure? That's the whole purpose of why the Secret Service was there. Thankfully, President Trump survived this near-death experience. Mr. Comprador did not. Exercising his patriotic right to participate in our democracy, he was not able to complete that day. And I want you to know something. The Comprador family, On Saturday morning, July 13th, were so excited to leave their home in Sarver as a family, Mr. Comprador, his wife Helen, and their 2 daughters, to go to Butler, Pennsylvania to watch our candidate speak. 4 people drove over that morning. 3 people went home that night. Mr. Comprador lost his life that day. That is totally unacceptable in America. Today's hearing brings forward 3 witnesses who were at the rally aiding the Secret Service effort on July 13th. These men are the first individuals who helped provide security at the July 13th rally to testify before Congress. They are here to give their accounts of what they saw and experienced both at the rally and in the planning process leading up to it, the key being the planning process leading up to it. I do expect they will share enlightening information about mistakes and regrets, but also about heroic and selfless actions taken by local law enforcement that day. It's important to remember that these men and their units were not in charge of July 13th, nor did they have a hand in designing the Secret Service security plan. Those responsibilities belonged to the Secret Service. These men answered a call to play a role protecting the public and our political process, even though providing security at a political rally is not their usual line of work. Our country already knows what happened at 6/11 on Sunday, July 13th in Butler. The law enforcement professionals with us today are here to tell us about specific actions and events that led to this outcome. Testifying today, we also have the medical examiner who performed the autopsy on Thomas Crooks. He is testifying to answer questions about how Crooks died and to hopefully put to rest some theories and doubts that often seem to follow high-profile violent events. Finally, our panel includes a distinguished retired Secret Service agent who played no role in the events of July 13th and is on this panel to provide insights into Secret Service protocols and practices. After this hearing, the task force will use what we have learned from today's testimonies, additional documents, and local law enforcement resources in the next phase of our investigation. In this next phase, we will be seeking answers about the Secret Service's questionable decisions regarding planning, resources, and the apparent lack of leadership that led to complacency and vulnerability on July 13th. Since the task force added its first staff in August, following a unanimous 416-0 vote by this House of Representatives to establish this panel, we have led a thorough, fact-based, and bipartisan investigation. Our duty, as expressed in the resolution establishing the task force, is to investigate and present a report making recommendations by December 13th that address the Secret Service's security failures. This task force is fully on track to fulfill our duty. This hearing is not our last word or conclusion. It is a window for the public to see our important ongoing work. Finally, I want to take a moment to address former President Trump, who after September 15th has now decided in two assassination attempts, he's going to return to the Butler Farm Show on October the 5th. I want to personally commend the former president and his family for the incredible strength they have shown since July 13th. I can't imagine anybody looking at this and looking at it. And please separate the politics from all of this. This is a United States citizen running for a political office. He has a wife, he has children, he has grandchildren. Nowhere in our whole scope of government can we accept the fact that these people jeopardize or put their life in danger by running for a public office. Totally unacceptable. I think he's owed a lot better than what he got that day, and also we're going to be looking at Florida. But we've been warned about these clear threats to his safety twice. It's the obligation of this Congress, this administration, and public servants at all levels of government to stand against those who would use violence to interfere with our elections. Every American should be outraged, regardless of who they intend to support, by these attempts to nullify their votes through violence. We use ballots, not bullets, to make a determination of who should serve. Today's hearing is the task force's latest attempt to seek accountability and answers on what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania, and to restore the faith, trust, and confidence the American people deserve.